Okie doke. Well, we are in the middle of chapter 3, and he's been talking about wisdom, discretion, judgment, that, and how important it is. You don't have to be afraid when you go to sleep at night. If you have wisdom and judgment, you can sleep sweet. Anyway, we're going to just continue on from there. He's going to give us 6 things not to do. He's been saying things to do: gain wisdom, knowledge, judgment. I was going to talk about things not to do. He says, do not be afraid of sudden terror or of trouble from the wicked when it comes. So key is, don't be afraid. A lot of times we are fearful of, terror. The word terror means an object of dread. So something that you dread, if it shows up, it could be a lot of different things. We dread illnesses. We dread loss of fortune. That's a lot of different things that we dread. But he says, don't be afraid of that stuff. And here's why in verse 26. For here's why: the Lord will be your confidence and will keep your foot from being caught. And so the particular kind of trouble he's talking about is, we call it moral or stumbling from doing God's will kind of trouble. And if you have God on your side, he will keep you from stumbling or from being caught in it. So verse 27, then second, do not withhold good from those to whom it's due when it is in the power of your hand to do so. That phrase, to whom it is due, I have put over there, is translated in other places, a landlord or a relation, an inhabitant, or one having wisdom. So you can see it has several different flavors to that word. I think probably the one that I favor as far as taking the definition, I would be more inclined to talking about the one having wisdom, because he's been talking about wisdom and gaining wisdom and everything, and learning from wise people, that kind of stuff. And so if that's what he's talking about here, he's just saying, don't withhold good from wise people, the ones that you're learning from, when it's in the power of your hand to do so. If you've got the means, help them along the way if they need help in any kind of way. But you could take any of the other of these definitions too. Your landlord, you're not supposed to, if you've got the money to pay the rent, then pay it if you've got it. It's in the power of your hand, or a relation, a brother, uncle, whatever, needs some help. You got the power to help them. Don't hold back from doing that. What would be a reason why somebody would even hold back?
Selfishness.
Pardon?
Selfishness.
All right, selfishness would be one.
Maybe they done you wrong sometime.
Maybe they what?
Maybe they done you wrong.
Okay, that could be another thing. You think they've done you wrong and they haven't repented of it or whatever. Any other ideas? Okay. Oh, Jay.
Very likely legal issues and all of those kinds of things make people reluctant to respond and be helpful. So I would say that would be certainly a big one. Is that I don't want to be involved. I don't want to have to worry about getting sued or something.
Yeah. I don't know how it was in those days, but in this day, you certainly have to be careful. You think you're doing somebody a favor, you stop on the side of the road and try to help them, and next thing you know, you're getting sued because something happened, was not really your fault, but you were there. So, and people are just wanting to do that. So another reason Gene,
I think it's in James. He said, he that knows to do good and does not do it is sin.
yeah, yeah. So it's not just a suggestion, really. This is saying this is what you do, because if you don't, it's sin. And another reason that I thought of that you might withhold is because maybe not out of selfishness, but out of, well, if I give it all to so and so, then what's going to happen down the road when I need it, kind of thing. Uh, I guess that is connected with selfishness, but part of it you think maybe, well, what's the wise thing to do here? If I give everything away, then am I being responsible about taking care of myself? And so anyway, bottom line is here, he says, it's key up there where he says, the Lord will be your confidence. God's not going to let, if we do good when it's in the power to do so, he's not going to let, not going to forget about it. Let's just put it this way. If you come along and you have a need at some point, whatever it is, God will take care of you. Doesn't say he's going to make you rich or whatever, but he will take care of us. Any other comments about this part of the verse? Okay, if not, we continue on to the next do not. Do not say to your neighbor, go and come back, and tomorrow I'll give it when you have it with you. Almost the same kind of thing, but this almost implies that you owe them something. Well, it really doesn't imply that, but it could be that you borrowed a rate from them, and you have it there, then give it back. Don't say, well, you come back tomorrow and I'll give it to you. Or if they have a need of some sort, if you got it, give it. Don't hold back. There's no point in waiting a day till tomorrow.
I had an occasion when a neighbor came and asked to borrow some money because his son was going to school in Spokane and couldn't pay the rent. But I had already been told by other neighbors that that same neighbor had borrowed from them and never returned it. So I asked him, when do you expect to return if I do loan it to you? And he said, well, I'll get it to you little by little. And I said, well, then I'm going to have to think about it for a while. And then I did, and I responded to him and I said, I think the circumstances is that I can't afford to loan it to you, because if I didn't get it back, it would put me into it.
Right. Yeah, and that's, I mean, Solomon doesn't get into using wise judgment on situations like this, but there's plenty of teaching in both the Old and the New Testaments about, for example, don't cast your pearls before the swine kind of thing. If a person has a reputation of not appreciating and using it unwisely or whatever help you might give them, is just like you see somebody on the street, asking for money, you give them some money, and some of them will use it for a good purpose to buy food or whatever, but a lot of them will go out and buy drugs or cigarettes or things that they don't really need. We had a friend one time that she had a really nice coat, expensive coat that she had, and she was wearing it, and she was driving. There was a lady sitting on the corner, shivering and acting, really cold, and so she felt she had compassion on her, and she took her coat off and gave it to her. And she, oh, thank you. And then an hour later, she was going back the other way and she drove by and the woman, the coat was laying on a pile there and she had it off and still was shivering to try to get more money. So she just went back and grabbed the coat and took it back, so um, you do have to use judgment like that, Uh, I would say just from my point of view, if um, well, we've talked about, helping people that are stranded or whatever, rather than give them money, they say we're hungry, we need, okay, we'll come to the house, we'll feed you, or we'll come over to McDonald's with me and I'll fill you up or whatever, that sort of thing. So you have to use some good judgment along those lines. Numerous times we've had people come to the church in Montana. These people came and said, "Oh yeah, we're members of the church and we're from California and we're on our way, but we've run out of gas and you know." Well, as soon as we started saying we would fill up the tank, well, actually, first of all, I says, "Well, is there somebody that we can call? Some of the elders where you're from and everything," and uh, well, yeah, blah, 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 a lot of hemming and hawing kind of stuff, and and then when we started saying, come to the house, we'll feed you or whatever, then all of a sudden their tune changed and they just got angry and stormed out, and they told the tale on themselves, that they weren't really after help, they just wanted money, and wasn't necessarily going to be for gas. So anyway, you got to use judgment there, but at the same time, keep in mind we need to be generous with people and their needs. Okay, so the next one, verse 29, do not devise evil against your neighbor, for he dwells by you for safety's sake. That evil is a word that means unpleasantness. Any kind of unpleasantness doesn't necessarily mean some diabolical sinful thing or whatever, but don't well, we have a neighbor that I think, I don't want to be too accusatory, but I think smokes some kind of illegal substance, and they sit outside at midnight, and it's right across the fence, from here to the wall from our bedroom. We have the windows open at night to let the cool air in, and that smoke comes rolling in and smells terrible.
It's still. That's.
And
Talking about the neighbors that moved. That helped move.
There's still people.
no, this is the people that moved in afterwards.
Oh.
So the new people. So anyway, I'm laying in bed, smelling that stuff and thinking, well, we need to close the windows, but close the windows, there goes the cool fresh air and all that. So in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm devising unpleasantness,
Pleasantness to you.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Whether they're planning, they're not doing it on purpose. Oh, there's the people over there, let's smoke them out. They're not thinking that, but they're just not thinking. They're just not thinking about the other people. But in my case, it was thinking, okay, sitting there kind of grinding my teeth, thinking what how, what I wanted to do was just go over there and yell at them, get that stuff out, people are trying to sleep and breathe over here, but then I started thinking, well, okay, what's a better way to do it, like saying, hey neighbor, that smoke's coming into our house. Is there a way you can maybe take it somewhere else, go to the front porch or whatever, if you're gonna anyway, bottom line is that's a kind of a practical example, just happened just this last week for us.
Blow their house up.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, they're gonna do that. Well, I'll admit, and I'm sorry to have to, I don't have to admit it, but I'm sorry that I thought this, but thinking about, okay, at midnight, they're up talking, we hear them talking, our windows are open and everything, they're smoking that stuff. Okay, so I'll be getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I'll be putting my boombox on outside. And, that's the kind of thing that, at least something along the lines that he's talking about. And, so anyway, that's one of the do not do's things. Okay, so then, verse 30, do not strive with a man without cause, for he has done you no harm. Now that striving is it's translated strive. It's more rich than that. It means quarrel, like with shouting. Don't have a shouting match with your neighbor. Notice it says without cause. It's like, I well, Jesus said, "Be ye angry and sin not," but he doesn't say, "Don't be angry." He just says, "Don't don't sin." If you get angry, there's a way to be angry without sinning. This is the kind of thing. The phrase when he has done, if he's done you no harm, I put out there on the side. It's like creating a conflict where none exists. There's no, the neighbor's just going along living his life, and you stir something up. That's what he's talking about there. We've all heard of, maybe even had it happen to us with a neighbor that gets mad at you for one thing or another, and really, I didn't, I didn't mean to do that, or whatever it is. I'll fix it. Somebody got mad at us one time, and we had I guess it was a porch light that I had aimed out, and it was going right in their bedroom window, and it was across the alley from us, but nonetheless, it was going right in their bedroom window. And rather than just coming over and politely saying, "Hey, you know what? Your porch light is aimed right in our windows. Can we do anything about it?" They wrote a nasty letter, and uh, the way we react to a nasty letter is what? Thinking nasty stuff right back. Well, I'll just, if it's not quite aimed at the window, I'll make sure it's aimed right at the window. Uh, no, that's the kind of stuff. Right.
We didn't.
Yeah, we had no idea. And this guy that's smoking whatever it is might not know there's a hedge between us and them. They might not realize that, oh, there's people there that might have their window open or whatever, just being, not even thinking about it. And if they do it very many more, or if they do it anymore, what I would do is just go talk to them, try to be a good neighbor and be kind about it and everything. But yeah, don't stir up a ruckus when there's really no reason to be confrontational about it. All right, so the next one, these are pretty practical stuff, right? That he's talking about here. Do not envy the oppressor. The word means a violent man. Oppressors do that too, but it's more specifically a violent man. And choose none of his ways. You don't want to, I mean, there's occasions that we have that we might envy somebody. Well, if you just take it as an oppressor, who does the oppressing? A landlord, say, for example, he's up in the rent and all this kind of stuff, and keeping people under thumb that way, and he's getting rich off of it. You might, oh man, I wish I could do that, envying that. But when they're doing it by a wrong, a immoral kind of thing. It's not really right to. One of the things that the Bible talks about is usury, or charging interest for, these exorbitant interests for you loan money to somebody, and it's kind of like, what do they call those guys that? Yeah, okay, a loan shark. Yeah, I'll loan you $1,000, but it's going to be 15% interest or something like that, and it just makes it twice as hard to pay back. And well, you can see them driving a Cadillac. You might envy that, but how did they get that Cadillac? And that's by oppressing people, treating people in the wrong way. Don't envy those kind of guys, and don't choose their ways. And verse 32, here's why. Here's why you don't envy those or don't choose their ways, is because the perverse person is an abomination to the Lord. That's all he really needs to say about it. God does not like that when you treat people that way. And he doesn't like it if you envy somebody that's doing that. That's totally going against God and his whole principles. But he does a contrast. Don't envy the oppressor. Those people are an abomination. But in contrast to that, his secret counsel is with the upright. God works with the upright to give them wisdom. If you want to, if you're trying to do right, you're trying to be wise and make good decisions, God will help you out with that. Like it says, like I put it out there onto the side, men of his intimate circle. He's with those people that are in his circle, and we want to stay in that circle. Then we have to live according to his principles. So that's why you don't want to do that. He says, verse 33, the curse of the Lord is on the house of the wicked. But in contrast to that, he blesses the home of the just. So if you want to be blessed, you need to be just or right, doing right. If you want to be cursed by the Lord, then you can be wicked. And so you have the choice of blessings or curses, wicked or good. You have to choose. In verse 34, he says, surely he scorns the scornful. Scornful are those that deride or mock. I don't know where that M came from there, but are proud and haughty. That's what scornful means. And God it's kind of almost humorous. He uses the same word. God scorns, he derides, mocks, is haughty towards those that are haughty and are mockers. Remember at the very beginning, talked about wisdom laughing at those that don't follow after her. And here's what you have. You're getting what you deserve if you don't follow me. This is the way God looks at that kind of stuff. He just mocks it and derides it. I don't like that. It's not the way to be. Well, then the next verse, the last verse in chapter 3, the wise shall inherit glory, but in contrast to that, the shame shall be the legacy of fools. Now, fools, those driven by impulse rather than wisdom, the stubborn, morally careless, that's what he's talking about when he talks about fools. What they get out of life is shame, because they don't make good decisions and they pay bad consequences for stuff. Gene?
That verse is he talking about, is he just in this life as opposed to eternal life?
Yeah, right. And that's just in this life, you inherit shame. I mean, shame is the legacy of those. And what is a legacy? It's something that you inherit or what you take with you. And so the people that are driven by impulse are not driven by wisdom. They're stubborn, morally careless. They can look forward to shame in their life. And that's the way it works out. And again, he's talking to Rehoboam. You got a reputation to uphold. You're a king's son, and you're going to be a king, and you don't want to have your shame as your legacy. So just keep that in mind that he's talking to Rehoboam, but principles apply to us as well. Any questions on chapter? Yeah.
It's an observation that if we look at those 6 do nots, like verse 25 is do not be afraid of the sudden terror, and the Lord will be our confidence. And then the next 5 are all things we should not do. We shouldn't envy, we shouldn't contend, we shouldn't plan evil, that kind of thing. And then in verse 32 ends with, for the upright are in his confidence. So you're going to be protected, but you need to do these things in your interaction with other people.
Yeah.
And then the Lord is going to be that confidence. And that's really that. I feel like those do nots 2 through 6 are really about how we interact with people.
Yeah, that's
They're
true.
not, do not steal, but they're really that impersonal stuff that it's hard. That's the part that's hard to not know.
Yeah.
It's been spoken, last be spoken at midnight every night for a week, and that's the human nature, I think, part of us that to look back, okay, we need to do and remember that God is doing that for us as well. He's giving us that confidence. And
Yeah. And it's only when we have him up here in our mind, if you have him down here and a whole bunch of other stuff in front of him, you're not going to, even if he tried to tell you something, you're not going to hear it. So Solomon's trying to establish we need to make wisdom and understanding a priority. It's got to be at the top of the list because God is the source of that wisdom and understanding. And that's what's going to get us long life. He said it more than one time already that long life is one of the byproducts of being wise and understanding, making good decisions. And that's what this whole thing has been about so far. All right, any other questions, comments? All right, then let's go to chapter 4. Here he says, "Hear, my children, the instruction of a father, and give attention to know understanding." Now it's interesting. I don't know if you can make anything out of it, but notice he changes from my son to my children. Maybe he's thinking, well, it's not just my son that needs this advice. I'm going to throw in just the word children there. And I don't know whether that's what he's thinking or not, but he does say that, and we can only surmise why he said children instead of son after saying son numerous times, and he'll be saying son again. Anyway, just an interesting point to ponder. Hear and give attention. These are the two things. Hearing, you can hear, well, you hear the words, but it doesn't soak in. When he's saying here, in this context, he's meaning, he explains it. Give attention to, listen with the idea of doing something about it, to know understanding. Has he said this before in this book? Yeah, over and over again. He's just pounding it in to this guy. I almost think if I was Rehoboam, I would start getting offended. Well, I know. How many times are you going to tell me that, Dad? I'm going to tell you enough times until you get it.
That's great, he didn't get it.
Yeah. And he didn't. So Solomon probably knew something that we don't about, well, we know now in the after effect, but Solomon knew it at the time. Okay.
referencing so strongly too, because he certainly didn't do right by an awful lot.
Right, there's Solomon, and who did he have for a dad? David. And David didn't exactly do everything right either. He made some really bad mistakes. And so I don't want you, Rehoboam, to make the same mistakes your grandfather made and I made. You need to get this. God has given me wisdom and I want to pass it on to you. And so he just piles it on, just keeps doing it.
Israelites moved everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So we are a stubborn lot.
I
So-
know you.
Yeah. And she's so stubborn that she keeps repeating that all the time. Even though I tell her I'm not, she just keeps stubbornly saying I am. Anyway. Yeah. So anyway, we do need it pounded in. That's why God preserved it for us, and it goes over and over again. When God repeats stuff, why is he doing it? You better listen. This is important. I wouldn't be repeating it if it wasn't important. So, but he says, hear and give attention. And then what does he say next in verse 2? Here's why. Here's why you need to hear and give attention, because I give you good doctrine. I give you good teaching. That word doctrine, I don't like it very much because we think of it as, the denominations and the Catholic Church have their doctrine, their teaching. Here's what you believe if you're going to be a Baptist, or if you're a Catholic, you believe this or whatever. And that's what we call doctrine. But the word just means teaching. That's all. This means teaching or instruction. And so he says, listen and pay attention because I give you good teaching. Don't forsake my law. And what is forsaking? It's casting it aside, just not following it at all. Just here I am in the teaching. Teaching wants me to go this way. I'm going this way. That's forsaking the law, God's law. In this case, Solomon is making rules for Rehoboam, rules about he's under inspiration, telling him good things to do, and making here's the rules. Here's what you need to do. Don't forsake it. Don't cast it aside. And then he says in verse 3, this is Solomon talking to Rehoboam. When I was my father's son, tender and the only one in the sight of my mother, before I even go any further, when was he never not David's son?
I think he's saying that David has passed on.
Okay, that's a very good point. That might be the case. The other thing that I was thinking, that when you're a little kid and you're growing up, you think of yourself as a son, and that's when all the teaching happens. And he may well be talking about.
Over the years.
Yeah, probably.
So I'm just thinking, he's thinking, when I was with my father,
Yeah, and that's a good point. But the main point that he's going to talk about is just when I was under his influence. When he could be talking about when I was under his influence, but then when I left his home, then I was on my own. Not that I wasn't actually his son, but I was on my own kind of thing. I don't know which one he's talking about. May well be that he's just talking about it. My father's passed, so I'm not his son anymore, so to speak. But anyway, the point is, he says when I was his son and the only one in the sight of my mother. What does that mean?
The only child at that time.
Okay, could be that he's the literal only child. but there's another way that you could be the only son in the side of your mother. And how's that? By preference. You know, this is my good boy, you know, and the other kids, you know, off to the side, whatever. He knew he was very loved by his mother and spoiled. I mean, he might be saying along the lines of, she spoiled, you know, I was spoiled. I was, uh, I was my father's son, and the only one my mother doted on, so to speak. Here's what my dad said to me. He also taught me and said to me, now when he says he also taught me, he's referring to, here I'm teaching you this. I'm teaching you, Rehoboam. Well, my dad also taught me the same things, and he's just going to actually repeat many of the things that he's been telling to Rehoboam. When I was a kid, my dad taught me this too. And he says, what it is, he said to me, and I put outside that this quote goes through verse 9. So from here to verse 9 is things that David said to Solomon. Let your heart retain my words, keep my commands and live. Okay, that's exactly the same thing he's been telling Rehoboam, right? Same thing as the words that he's been talking about. Well, keep going. David says to Solomon, get wisdom, get understanding. Do not forget nor turn away from the words of my mouth. Once again, same stuff that he's been saying himself. I'm repeating what my dad told me. Do not forsake her. Here he's personifying wisdom again. Don't forsake her, and she will preserve you. Solomon had already said this to his son. Love her, and she will keep you. The word keep means guard or protect. And if you love wisdom, she'll take care of you. You take care of wisdom, she'll take care of you back. Then he says in verse 7, and this is one that's quoted often, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And in all you're getting, get understanding. So there's a lot of getting going on here, and wisdom and understanding is the important thing. That's what he says it at the beginning of verse 7. Wisdom is the principal thing. And principal means, okay, most important or main. The main thing, the most important thing is wisdom. And so go after it. Get wisdom. And while you're getting wisdom, get understanding. Wisdom and understanding are real close together by definition. Understanding implies that you're gonna not only do you understand the words, but you understand the message behind the words and will act accordingly. And that's what wisdom is also. And so if you want to memorize a verse, memorize this one. It's a really good one. And it's a good one to teach little kids as well. Wisdom is really important. Need to look for it. Now, our time's almost up, so I'm not going to go any further here, but any comments or questions